We are. Are we? Yeah. Silly. Almost makes it seem like it's not. I am back. Oh, goodness, everything is in somewhere where I left it. In some ways, I disturbed a whole bunch of stuff looking for tools. Where am I in the frame? I'm there. Take off of this hat. Oh, I need to go get my other shoes. Of course, I start without actually starting. One moment. Okay. Okay. Let us start this off right. These are going to come in with me once I'm done. I'll hang up the flops. That's the hair slick. I am back. Okay, I am back after taking 3 days. Yes, 3 days. So just kind of, have myself a small breath. And then I tried, really the optimal word in that sentence there. I tried to do some personal life stuff that needed addressing, and it did not work. And it actually led to a whole nother issue involving my vehicle. And I spent yesterday diagnosing the problem, finding the problem, ripping the problem out, and now I am waiting for the part I need to come back in. Will come back in to be delivered, because it was one of those things you just can't go and pick up at a auto parts store, or at least I couldn't figure out if I could, or if I could if I could replace just one of the parts of the part that needed to be replaced. All unnecessary backstory, right? I'm here to make a puppet. I'm here to solve and to show a practical approach to Tony Chopper. That is my goal. That is my project. That is kind of my mission. And I remain steadfast and on it. In fact, I remain steadfast and on it so much that my mind on these 3 days was kind of jumping back and forth. Though I know I should be only focused, because of how my brain starts to jump back and forth. I should be only focused on getting the brain point puppet done and shooting the necessary scenes/vignettes that I so have talked about and promised, because that was the first goal of this project. But now the brain, the mind, the muse wants more, or has given more. Many options, of course. As always, it's yours to choose from. What option appeals most to thee? Flip-flops are up. Can we raise the camera? We don't need it down so much. We're not at stage level right now. We can probably be right back up to there. The hat's nice. It's seemingly everything's stable, which I am super happy about. I did have to really glop on some glue, ain't gonna lie. We still got to get a brace on there, and I might still do some more brown paint. But for right now, I am happy with where our hat sits. At least for the moment. At least for the moment. So I've been thinking, well, we should also do this just because it's part of the form and function of the project. Got to get ourselves a nice new board and kind of outline, or at least title, of what we are doing this day and the days to follow. So we are done, mostly done, basically done with Mad as a Hatter. As I said, we do have that brace that still needs to be made. Get all of this off of there because that was just more stuff. Move all of this as well. Done with Headspace. Done with Mad as a Hatter, which I'm pretty damn happy that we're finally out of that. That caused me a lot more anxiety than I should have let it. And what I should have done is what I did over the last few days, and that was take a moment to just, chill out, recuperate, and refigure out what I wanted to do. Because over these last few days, I have kind of gotten a better understanding on at least how I want to attempt to do the manipulation portion. So, we are on day 21, and we are moving into got no strings. Yes, he's got no strings. Got no strings on me. Do just kind of picking stuff up as I see it right now, because I have not been in here very much except for, like I said, grabbing tools for the car project that I needed to do. Get the seam ripper back over to here. What else did I want? What else did I want? Okay. This might be a lot of talking today. We might do more actually getting to it tomorrow. But the hopes, the want, is to take our puppet as he currently stands. And I want to be able to manipulate him without having my hands on the appendages. And that means I want to have as much control as I currently do, which is going to be kind of hard because with the way that I've had it is that I've been able to manipulate it in a pretty succinct fashion. And if I'm just putting a rod basically on the arm, am I going to have that same kind of movement, or am I going to have to figure out a few ways to go about going about this? And that's kind of going to be the real situation here. Also with the legs, how am I going to figure out how to move the legs now that the legs are like the way they are? Because we still have our rotation in the feet. We still have our knee that moves in a somewhat fashion, mind. Somewhat. And we still got a lot of good movement on the knee, but how do we achieve that? And so I've been kind of thinking on how that's going to be done. I have these little curtain rods here that I think might come into application with this. I also have some wooden dowels and the same wooden dowel we used for the antlers to be affixed to the hat. And so it's going to be a lot of me kind of gamifying how this is going to work. And that's kind of where we're at. And I guess I've talked enough at this point. I'm going to sasp some soda, and we'll get right into it. Again, I'm just trying to re-establish myself in here. In some ways, I felt bad for taking the days off. In some ways, I felt it was necessary to take the days off. Well, it was necessary because I have to actually handle real life, non-Paxi project items. Though I would love to just only have been focused on this, and still wish in some ways I had only been focused on this. But again, things have to be done. There are rules to the world we all live in. So, let's see here. I want this. Do I want this box clear? I think I do. I think I want to clear my box off here. Throw those down there for now. I swear I turned on Pandora. These are all tools that I was using for the corn, so I don't want to put them too far away. I think I'm going to want to use that wire to start off with. Oh, did I just not have that in mind? I could have swore I just had... What the hell? Oh, silly me. Hmm. I had a few kind of conceptual ideas on how I did want to approach this. Some is using eye hooks. Some of it is using, well, I feel like the way that I attach it, at least initially to the arm, are the eye hooks. And then I have my curtain rod here that will then act as kind of a way to manipulate it up and down. I have a few other different versions of eye hooks, and I wonder if those will work, but let's, you know what, I do want to try it with the wire first, just to see what's going to be needed to be done to make this get to where I want it to be. Okay. So, all right, so gonna roll his sleeves up for now so that we have a little bit more accessibility down here. I'm gonna actually take off the hand. So seemingly I kind of need it to wrap around. So where's our elbow? That's our elbow. And so I want it right like that. Probably needed more wire than this. Definitely needed more wire than that. What if I just do it like this? What if we go like that? Where is we are? We kind of do one of these like that. And we should be able to thread on our stick. And then so we got that much movement. That's interesting. Why did I lose elbow movement at that point? What if it was at the bottom instead? The elbow is really going to kind of screw me up here. And also, this arm just loves to rotate in the worst possible fashion. Is it because it's out of the... No, it's where it needs to be. That's our wrist. I mean, that's our elbow right there. We can go up, we can go around, go across. These curtain rods just might be too short in the long run. That's what I'm worried about, is that if I do too much rotation, then it wants to slip out. But then how much do I want to lock in this curtain rod? Because I still want to... It's not bad. It's not bad at all. I just can't get my elbow bend as well as I could when I'm doing it with my own hands. Let's put the hand back in. Let's see how that affects everything here. So that's not bad elbow movement there. That's not terrible elbow movement there either. And now I just need to figure out. So if that's not bad, if that's, passable when it comes to that, then it's going to be, how do we thread that through? Do we thread that through just right through the fur in the back? Do I add another? And just, again, these are all examples before we inset it in the way that it actually needs to become. Do we add another area? Where's our elbow? Elbow's right there. Do we add a secondary rod on there to act as the bend point to the elbow? So we have, and that's, of course, we have to, it has to be definitely inset. Like, we have to either screw something in, or we have to find a way to inset it. It has to be permanent to a point. Because if it's not permanent to a point, then we risk it, like we just saw, pushing it off the arm. and pushing off the hand. Um. It's a whole new world, I swear. We got to figure out how we're going to make it work for us. Ain't gonna lie, I did like where that was going. So I'm wondering, I'm going to try a few things here. Can I put this on to there? Then it also comes the issue of, like, once this is inset into the wood, are we then going to have an issue with it then becoming loosened at a certain point? Is it better if I just... Because if that goes all the way in, it's probably going to cause a little bit of issue right there. I think I need to actually use the drill. Do I need to use the drill? It's not there. Is this the drill bits? Yeah, but is it gonna be too big? Might be too big. It might be too big. We'll give it a shot. Because if we're rotating these so damn much, there's always going to be the potential that we start to rotate the lock point that we're putting on right here, which in turn will eventually just kind of fall out. What would probably work really, really well is if I had a whole bunch of like small key rings. Like that would probably be a nice addition. Or if I could just, if I could insert the pin in there and I don't know. We're going to play around a lot. We got to play around a lot to figure out how this is going to actually end up working. Or better said, how we get it to work in the way that I would like it so that it is efficient enough that I don't need worry about it. Oh my gosh, come on now. We gotta bend you like that. It's not bad. That's a lot of good movement right there. The only thing that's bothering me is the clicking that it makes. Really like it to just be right there like that. That's kind of the optimal area. Again, if I could just do this with little tiny key rings, that would be better. I just don't know where or if I can go find little tiny key rings. And at the moment, I am kind of stuck in place while I am fixing my vehicle. So that's kind of another interesting facet now of this project, that I can only go as far, or I can only use as much as I have right now in front of me, or I need borrow a vehicle from either my father or my grandfather. And not to say that's a bad thing or something that I can't do, but in more so I would say it's just not something that I've really paid too much thought on as of yet. And see, now it popped off. Interesting. How can I lock that in? What will be the best way? What is going to be our best way of locking that in? Like that size is exactly what I need. Hmm. I don't dislike that. If I could find a whole bunch more of key rings in that size, that'd be the best way to do it. But again, I would have to go somewhere, I believe. Or I have to wait for another day where a vehicle is available. Or who knows, maybe the part comes in, they gave me an estimate of either 16th or the 20th, and as soon as I get that in, then the car is able to move again, and then I can actually go zipping in place to place. But like, I don't hate that. I don't hate that at all. The only issue is that, again, our elbow is kind of weirdly restricted in a way. But how much is that actually going to matter in the long run? So I just feel like I have so much better articulation with it, with my hands. Maybe we just is it better for me to just use my hands at this point and figure out how to do it that way? Or do I need to really then, do I have to figure out how to add another? Because what way could we go about doing that? We could do a method where instead of, like, we still use a secondary rod in the hand, but then we end up getting, because right now I'm just working on the manipulation of our, come on, James, words, you have them in your face, you know you can get them out. We're just working on the manipulation of the forearm, the end of the arm. And I'm trying to figure out now how to get where are my bad scissors? I'm trying to figure out how to get the elbow to move right now. But if I'm focusing on those 2 points, in some ways, I'm not focusing on, and I wouldn't even call it the elephant in the room, as it's not something we've attempted to address yet. It's something that I need to address. But we still have to figure out wrist rotation, because that is going to be a very important part of this. Like, we need to have not only the wrist be able to move in the way, but we also have to get it to be able to do this, and we have to be able to do one of these. And that's going to be an interesting solution, to say the least, I have to assume. So where's okay, that's our elbow. Now, using the fishing line here, of course, it's going to induce quite the puckering effect right there. But what I'm hoping is that with that, yeah, I can now have a place to pull tension on. So when we're moving the arm, we can then add a little bit of pull tension. Because without it, it's just moving like this. So, for example, that's how the arm moves when I just do it in that fashion. But if I have myself a pull string, I can then, oh, maybe not. Of course, it's just the weird way that this particular arm works. But again, now I'm adding a lot more, I don't want to call it unnecessary, but now I need to figure out how to get that to work. Or again, am I trying to add too much when it's not as necessary? Because I get a good wrist bend, I mean, I get a good elbow bend like that, and I don't get it, or I have to really kind of force it like that. And that's with the rod being held in my middle finger right here. And I highly doubt you can see the rod where it is at the moment. So right now the rod is kind of in this area. No, not even like that. It's in this area coming out the bottom of my hands. And I'm using my thumb. So I would want to be on the endmost area of our rod here. And my thought with the fishing line here is that I can just basically thread it right through the back of the arm of the puppet or back of the elbow of the puppet once we get to that point. Okay, I want more string. Oh, I don't want to screw up my spool here. Come on. I'd rather have more spool to work. I'd rather have more string to work with than less string, and then I can always cut it if need be. So that's where that is. Where's our elbow again? Why does it feel like that elbow? I need to stop. I need to stop thinking about what elbow is better, what elbow is not as good. We got to work with the elbow that we have. Do I tie it higher up, perhaps? Let's see how that happens. I need to tie it in the back, though, no matter what. And again, this can just be pierced right through our puppet felt. And that should be perfectly fine. Okay, so now I got a lot of string. Still with the whole kind of like thumb method. Is there another way to do this? So if I have my hand like this, so let's say, okay, so how many ways can we hold, how many ways can one hold a rod? How many rods can one hold and be efficient with it? So we could do something like this. Because again, I have to figure out then how we're going to do wrist rotation. Is everything going to be my hand on the rod like this, and then we figure out how to do all of our pulling from the strings on a different way, or is the thumb really the best way of doing that? So how do I gain tension? So I need to be able to gain tension on it in some kind of way. Because we use the rod as our main directional, and then we use our tension to cause or to induce the elbow bend in some kind of way. Also want to make sure that I'm not losing too much on there. So that's all the way there. So it's like that. Then can I just use my finger to induce the bend? Or is the thumb really the best way to go about going about it? Would it be better to have a secondary hole going through? Because I do have a slight, what's the term? Slit cut in this curtain rod that I could potentially thread the string through and then it can fall out through the bottom. Kind of like so. And that would create our nice isosceles right there. And with that isosceles, I can then kind of control. Ooh, I like that. I really like that a lot. Because then if I don't want to induce too much bend, I don't have to put tension on it. But if I do, then I can do a lot more in that sense. I like that. I really do like that a lot. That's interesting. That's really interesting. But again, am I doing too much work right now for what essentially can be done without all of this? I don't know. Intriguing to say the least. Intriguing to say the least. I say, Let's see here. Again, am I adding too much? Is it necessary? Well, and it was interesting there that because it was pre-tensioned like that. So if it's pre-tensioned, so right now it is like we can create the isosceles, but there's no like pre-tension on it. And so if there's pre-tension, I can use my finger, well, I can use my thumb to induce that tension, or I can just create the tension without my thumb, and then I basically kind of use it. That's interesting as well. Just matched it. Did Philippe walk on water? Diddy, homie, Diddy some. Here's a bitty bum. Is it better to have the ability to lose tension and gain tension, or is it better to have the ability that the tension is always there and then work around the tension as it is? Because in the long run, I would really love my hand to be at the very most end. Interesting. Everglades. Soto. Turn at the portal. My vocal. I seen the wave whip. I shot dice on a slave ship. Gang shit. Money. That's something that you like to know. Interesting. Oh, this is very interesting. And now the same thing. Oh, goodness me. I'm using these curtain rods. And these curtain rods only give me that much area to move right there. And without like getting all dressed up, I guess it's all really going to kind of rely on the feet, because if I'm here in the way that we want it to be, hope it to be, foresee it to be, is this going to be enough? Yeah, that should be enough. I can't see myself needing more or more stick. Basically, I don't need my hands farther away, I don't think. The legs might be a different issue, because my thoughts on the legs is that we kind of use the same principle where we have an anchor point in the back that can move our feet up and down. The only issue then is if I attach that. No, again, that should work as well, shouldn't it? Like, that seems like a good distance from my leg. And then when I move, well, it's a whole nother can of worms, ain't it? I say again. Do it like this. Let's try to thread it down through. I'll set it in kind of the anchored fashion so that I have tension, but it's not absolutely tensioned. Or at least that's the hope. Are you not going to go through this time? Like, that might be the only benefit of doing it with the dowel, is that I can then create... Come on, man, pop out. Thank you. I can then just create a hole at the bottom, but then again, if I want to achieve that, there's no reason that I couldn't just put a piece of tape down there either, is there? That will lock it in, as well as a hole would, I would assume. And what I mean by that is that because there is the... I really should... In some ways, I should have been doing this with the camera next to me a lot better, but I also didn't want to put too much worry on the stream aspect of this. But hopefully you can kind of see the little like gap there. And the only benefit of doing this with our dowel is that I could do a simple drill right down through it. The reason that I like the curtain rod is that it already came with this nice little eyelet on there, and I think it's going to be pretty damn sturdy for us in the long run. Again, the same thing can be achieved on the dowel that I bought, but I then saw the curtain rod. I was like, it's pretty nifty, and it's pretty on point to what I'm trying to do with it. So let's see if we can't lock it down there with a little bit of tape. Don't need terribly that much. Just needs to be able to lock itself. So I want to create... Is that neutral tension right there? I do believe so. So that makes it so that it won't go any higher. And then I'll put that on there like that. So that should create our general tension, which means then I should be able to... So again, a lot of this is being done with my thumb kind of moving it. If anything, I could probably add a little bit more absolute tension on there. I don't want it to be already bending. How about that? So basically just kind of wrap my thumb into the wire. And then whenever I need tension, I just kind of actuate my thumb in respect to where... Oh, I'm liking that a lot. Because that still gives us the same ability that I was able to do with my thumb. That's basically what the thumb was doing right here when I had it on the puppet arm itself. And then what my finger was doing is basically what the rod is doing now. So what I've just done is I've created a much more, just a better distance now between that kind of... That's really cool. I got no strings, but we added strings. How funny is that? Now with strings. That's pretty funny. I really like that. I really, 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 really like that. Really, really, really like that a lot. Just finding out where our bends are. And I do kind of like that. Wrapping it around my thumb kind of presents that extra bit of tension. But I don't even have to have it wrapped around the thumb. I can just... Well, with it wrapped around the thumb, I have an absolute tension, and I can kind of move my hand to where it needs to be. What if we control it? Interesting. Interesting. I'm trying to see how many more digits I have. Because right now, I need to remember to do this more often. Okay. So hopefully you'll be able to kind of see this. So without the thumb, that's the kind, like, we can still get our wrist bend, but I have to do a lot to get that our elbow bend to work. With the kind of tension method here, when I wrap it around the thumb, I then can just add a little bit of pressure and pull the thumb, and that will induce that elbow bend, or it will make it easier for me to get that elbow to bend in the way that I would want it to. Do it that way. Kind of go like that. We can get up like that. That's interesting. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. But as you kind of saw there, most of the hand is gripping on our stick right there, as with quite a bit. So I'm wondering how, will I have anything else on there to then act as the manipulator for any of the other part of the arm? And if I want to if I want to point straight with it, I don't have to add any tension. Or if I want to bend with it, I add tension. Oh, that's so interesting. That's a lot. Maybach with no license, with low prices. Handle it. Lemon squeeze. Lemon squeeze. Stay dangerous. Unpainted. Caborio Ornega watching CNN. Could also, box that you could sleep it in. I like that. I like that a lot. Okay, if that works there, what do we then do about the feet? Do we try to use the same method where we then have our attachment point in this bottom area as the main one, and then we have another attachment point down, like doing the same thing? Or interesting. Or do we do it more so where our attachment point is on this area? Could I achieve the same thing that I'm achieving now with the string with another stick? Or would that actually do anything for me? There's a possibility. There's definitely a possibility. Let's see how that looks like. Even though I like this method with the way the string is working, it makes me wonder, my thumb is already, like, yes, I'm going to be wearing gloves, sure, but there's also the issue that it could just add more places where things could fix onto. I don't know, let's try it this way as well. So I'm going to just do this, like Benzino. Sea of people. And then Diesel. Griselda the label, but you know. Strange. Do it this way, perhaps? So does that achieve the same thing that I want? Like, I don't know how it would though. Like, I can't induce the same kind of pull tension on there. The only way it would be able to is if I find a way to get them to slip through my fingers. And in that fashion, that's interesting. But I would have to then figure out, then I would have to figure out some kind of way to then tie the string on there. I feel like I'm trying to add something on there to a thing that was working out really, really well. But I was already attaching it on to our rod that is on the arm. So why try to add another device and complicate it? What if I go through the top? Like the top of our curtain rod here. Where in the world did you go? There it is. Do I want it that way? No, it's not going to work. It does have to go through and down. So we need to create that isosceles there. Is it the isosceles or it's not an isosceles. We're creating kind of a right triangle more so than anything. With that right triangle, we add tension on it, and that's what gives us our bend. I think that is a good method. I think we stick with that method. How do we do the leg? How do we do the leg? Do we want to go at the ankle? If we go at the ankle, we risk the issue of because that knee could possibly bend too far. So right now, our knee kind of like this is the way we want the knee to bend. Obviously that, you seeing that correctly? See, this is why I didn't want to focus too much on it. So that's the way our knee bends, and that is the correct bend. But if I just go from the bottom, then we start to induce kind of a nasty bend. But does that look as bad as I think it looks? Kind of. Kind of. Maybe instead of going at the bottom, we go straight to the source right there. I'm going to refix this up. Of course, this is all impermanent at the moment. Yeah, it has to be impermanent at the moment because I'm going to have to then figure out where I want certain aspects to be anchored to. Because and again, I keep jumping back to this arm that we already kind of figured out. So I was kind of moving it when it was down. Where was it? So I kind of moved it when our rod was a little bit more parallel there, and that's where we were kind of going with it. We could, however, make it so that there's so much tension that it's like right there, and then we're moving it in that fashion. Hell, you could go all the way to an aspect of even right here, and if it's at that point, what happens? Interesting. It's almost like that is interesting. But at that point, there's enough tension that I don't even need to use my thumb. And if we want to go straight with it, we just go past that point. I kind of like that. Very interesting. Very interesting. This is so fun. Oh my gosh, this is so interesting. There's so many ways we could go about it, and there's so many ways that it might be better if we go about it like in a different fashion. But again, using my thumb, that kind of, it helps manipulate it in a way. But if we do take it to that high tensioned area where the pole is already kind of at this angle, then we're just basically using the tension that's already being provided. And if we don't want that tension, that's so interesting. That's so darn interesting. Like if we did it like that, there's almost absolute tension no matter where we move it. And then we just got to kind of move it past a certain point. Oh, that's so peculiar. But then again, that then puts our hand at a very strange angle right here. So bringing our hand down is probably better than having it up, even though the benefit of that constant tension without the thumb is kind of nice. But the thumb acting as our tensioner, ooh, we got choices to make, folks. We got choices to make here. Interesting. Interesting. Okay. I'm going to do what I was initially doing before I got kind of caught up again in, just figuring all this out. Because there's only so much I can do in my own skull, right? I'm saying I come in and I say that I've been thinking for the last 3 days on how to do it. And a lot of this has kind of been in the brain, and I've kind of thought about how this could be done. But until I actually get out in here and start doing it, it's all just in the mind. It's just Play-Doh that I've been kind of moving and shaping and using what the brain has seen and what the body has already felt with the puppet and how that it moves. It's only going off of what it already kind of knows, or in some cases worse, what it just assumes to be what's going to happen. So again, yeah, so right now we have it at that really high tension. So if it's right there, again, that's not terrible. Not terrible, not terrible at all. It's all going to come down to when we actually jump in the puppet again and we actually figure out how we want to set ourselves up on it. This feels so off. It feels like we made our shoulders bigger on one side. And it could just be the fact that the fur has shifted in a very strange way. In some ways I feel like it should be right there. And again, that's just a fur issue. And we could always just pin that in place. We could staple that in place like that. But if I staple it, then we have a real issue of permanence, and we want to avoid permanence in the most cases that we can. Because I can unscrew this, we can de-thread this once it's threaded through the arm. But if we staple this, then I have to pull out the staple every single time. Because again, the kind of keen nature of having the zipper in the back is that if I need to take off the costume and fix something on it, if I need to do anything like that, I have that ability. Let's figure out our leg next. Let's figure out the leg next. So my thoughts on the leg, how I would like to at least approach the leg, is this. I would like to, let me think about this. I would like to basically have it so that I have a nice little cuff that comes around my leg. It attaches to our post, and then it attaches to our puppet. And my thought is that I'll take a little bit of our leather that we've been using, and then with the leather, I would be able to create said cuff. As I just explained, we'll be able to Velcro it around the leg, and then our post here would, as we were kind of trying to explain before I went back into the other part, would kind of fix right there. So either we do it the same way where we have, and I kind of need to pull up the leg here. We could have it so that there is a, so that's our leg bend. I would probably say the best place for it would be right there, right? Because I want it right underneath, or right, I want the leg bend to be right where that is. So that's our leg bend. I want it to be in line with that. We do that. We take the same. I wonder, you know what if we use a regular eye hook this time? It's a bit thicker, isn't it? I probably need a better bit. I don't want to start splitting our wood here. Oh, no, that'll work. That'll work. It might be too big of an eye hook, but I think conceptually, I think it should still work. So that gets placed in there like that. Then we put our curtain rod over like that. Again, it would be threaded through, but now we have the ability to move our leg. And so I'm not busting out too much stuff just yet. Let's do it like this. Gosh, you know, I've been avoiding it. I really have. I don't think it's a thing that can be avoided any longer. I really do just have to be I have to be attached, right? Like that's a big part of what this project is there is an attachment factor. So we must be attached, which means that the microphone must come out. Unfortunate as that may be. The mic, when it's just kind of standing out, it's not that bad, to be honest with you. Um, and it being the only mic that I have, it's kind of a necessity that we have it at least on. And so we might figure out some kind of weird workaround to allow it to be where we want it to be. This on out. You know, I did end up going with a different sling swivel. So this is the one that I initially got. Uh, I ended up just taking one off of a one of my personal. I took it off my personal sling, and or I got this because I thought it was going to work. But then when I actually attached it to the puppet, it felt like it was too long, and it was giving the puppet too long of a neck. But with the amount that I have to stuff into it, I don't know. We'll give this a quick shot here. See how this looks in comparison to. We already kind of know how that other one looks. But if I am going to come back and add stuffing, um, because so many people have suggested it online, I might come back and add more texture on top. So let's see how this, how much length does this end up adding for us? Is it just way too much for the neck of the puppet? You gotta give me a second while I fuss around with the phone here. This is the only really good way. Like, of course, I can always go back on the stream and kind of look at it and see how it all looks, but I would much rather get a kind of distinction right now. Far enough back, is it? Oh, there's better. Damn it, phone. 10 seconds must feels like a lot longer sometimes, I swear. I just think it gives us too long of a neck, if I'm being honest. Weird, kind of like terms doesn't definitely gives us more distance between the puppet, but is that too much distance? Like, even if we add all of our extra bits, add some more fur felt, like, is that going to be enough to compensate for the distance between right there? Check those second. Now the concept of our leg. And I'm already kind of feeling that it might not be working the way that I want it to. There might be too much. As if I am like this is the general kind of way that I am on the puppet. And that's as far away as that is. I'm right here. That's difficult. I think this is too short for that to work that way. Like that definitely works. But the way that it's kind of on there right now. Hat is definitely more unwieldy now, that's for sure. It would add more neck flexibility for me. It definitely gets me farther away from the puppet, but again, I think it's just too far away from this puppet. Shit, we might have to add a full, like, extra. Solve another thing that needs to be solved later. I can't focus on that now because we're focusing on this rate. Okay. That did not work the way that I was hoping it to. Or it might, it's just because I'm not attached on the other side. I think it's going to have to be more fixed. I don't think I can tap it on this kind of loop. Interesting. I'm going to get that to work. Be easier to attach it to the bottom of my foot instead. That's another idea. That's interesting. Better to have it in a way where right now the issue is that it is wanting to rotate the whole puppet every time I step. And I have a feeling if it does that, it's going to create too much of that floppy puppet like we had. Now, if I have both hands on here, like, does that still get induced? I can't really figure that out because I don't have it attached. Okay, maybe the eye hook is not the way to go. You go with the string again as the attachment point instead. Yeah, I think these curtain rods for the legs are going to be too short. But just because I have them here right now, we can always transfer over to the dowels. But I want to see if this connection point is a real weak area in this particular part of the design. Because on the hand, it's nice because it adds a little bit of rotation, or better said, it adds a little bit more flexibility for the rod to kind of move through. But with the leg, it needs to be more sturdy because again, we're trying to battle out the rotation joint that I put on there because of our magnet. So I do that like this. That's what that is. So I want that directly on there, like that. So we can go in like this. Directly along like that. So it's going to rotate this. So we want it to remain absolutely fixed. At least in this case. This to there. That's secure enough to fit for right now, at least. So now that's secure, so it's not going to ever pop out. And it gives us the push-pull that we need. Of course, we still kind of have the flop at the moment. Then if I am holding tension on it, and again, we have the tension on the other side as well. So that's what we can use for that. Rotate it like that. So are you going to rotate on me when you're like this? Okay, so that gives us somewhat gives us our up movement like that. Don't get our full knee bend just yet. But if that's attached to the leg right there, I move my leg forward. It's better set. So I am here. I move this leg forward like that. That moves it back like that. It's just going to be every leg movement is going to have to be absolutely and utterly determinative of where it's going to need to move. I'm gonna this around here, then I can wrap this out to the at least. I just need to get a straight piece of sheet pen. Still put some strips with the ruler too, but you'd rather not waste tape. Possible. Spraying the baby woke up. Go. So what did I want to do? I wanted to bring the cuff. Basically, so I'm trying to do a basic cuff to go around my leg, kind of situate like that. And the hope would be that that would then attach here so that every move made with the left would be in some ways reciprocated by the puppet. So then that would kind of can I just do this around? Again, this is gonna be a lot more cohesive with the um, the Velcro and the leather strips, I believe, because then we can actually create a actual removable cuff that's not so, heavily affixed to me. There's that. It's not bad. It's not fantastic, but it ain't bad. again, yeah, the Velcro would be nice because I can attach myself to the puppet and then I can Velcro myself in, because right now it's kind of going to be this weird. Because normally I would love to just sit the puppet. Well, I guess it kind of can still work in the way that it is. For now, that is, for now. Come on, Matt. What are you doing? What are you doing, thing? Come on. Son of a bitch. That's not bad. Hey, we know that does that. So then we'd add the tension on. Is that the next step? Like, then we got the leg where that is. Do we do the reverse kind of idea that we already did with the arm here? Do we add some kind of tension to create the, I guess, effect, if you want to say it like that? But more so the resistance, I think, is the word that I want to use. Because we can create resistance. There's also a part of me that I'm still trying to figure, like, the idea of rotation is still something in my mind, because right now our, like, this is so floppy that when we take a step, it's just kind of flopping about. So I'm trying to think that if I have a, like, on the cuff that goes around, or even something else, like if we have a secondary cuff that maybe attaches to the, maybe the eyelets of my shoe here, that we can then attach it to our foot. And when I move my foot this way, because it's attached to the eyelet, it will move it that way. Because it's attached to the eyelet, it will move it that way. That's a possibility for sure. I would want some, again, I would, semi-permanence is something that I really like about the project. Is I would rather have something that is on there and can be slipped off, more so than something that is on there that I then either have to completely remove every single time. What would be a way for us to do that? eye hook's not a bad idea. So I just put two eye hooks basically on the eyelets of my shoes like this, so that when we attach on with our cup, these basically get cinched on as well, and they would already be at the certain tension that we would need them to be. Where could we put that? Could just drill straight through right there and there, there and there. So what I'm kind of saying is that, so you can't really see, well, you can, it's going to be kind of weirdly awkward. You kind of see how the eyelets are on the shoe like that. What I'm thinking is that if I attach a string, hope you can see this. If I attach a string there and feed them to my eyelets there and there, when I turn my foot that way or that way, it should rotate, or I hope it rotates. Because that would be in some way secured right there. I go there to there. Well, I guess I'm gonna just have to try it, right? I just have to try the idea. And sure, we're gonna create a hole through the foot here, but I don't think it's gonna look too bad. Like that. It's fantastic. Is that it? The hell did I just show? I too. I can't see anything without my glasses on. Imagine that. The more and more attached to the puppet I get, the weirder the like the weirder the things that I have to do to move around with the puppet are. Then get attached back in like that. Just a better bit of standing for us here. That straight leg. Ah, wrap out if that's gonna work. Not getting enough. Could just be that I don't have enough tension on it right now. Like conceptually, like it should work. Like this should turn on foot in the way that I want to. Jesus. So let's keep on with the idea. Let's not stop before we reach the actual penultimate. It ain't gonna work for me. Let's see how far we can get. Appreciate you. Appreciate you. Come on now. Stand up, please. It's nice. It definitely created attention. I'm not getting the erroneous kind of flop. Where I'm still getting a little bit of flop, but it's not as bad. It's not flipping backwards on itself, that's for sure. I'm not getting the kind of rotation that I was hoping to get, but that could just be where I set the holes on there, but also dressing. It's so strange because we got half of the puppet right now attached, and the other half is still a limp noodle. Oh, that's works now. Stop it. Well, does it? No, do not stop it as well. Come on, you can do it, phone. No? Okay. So that's to stop it by oneself, I was saying. And we still have the ability for that to pop out. It's a start, though. It's a start. Strange start, mind you, a very strange start, but a start nonetheless. Damn it, I want the phone now. Okay. Okay, where's that put payment? Taking this off. I'd like to. Um, I intend to keep trying to go a little bit more later this evening, but I do have some, personal stuff I need to attend to still. So we're probably going to cut it a little bit earlier than normal. Computer and all that. And I gotta play far jumping. And what I would really like to do is I'd like to come back this evening and figure out a good cuff. I think that would be a good start design. Um, Maybe figure out like this isn't that bad if I'm being honest. Like besides the fact that there are these two like pointy bits on there, it's not very bad at all. And in the long run, what I could do is I could just go get myself a pair of like beater shoes, like some like Walmart joints or hell, HEB down here even sells their own brand of shoes. So maybe I go find myself a really cheap joint and we just create ourselves a pair of shoes that are distinctly for the character that I'm not worried about removing things, or better said, I'm not worried about like goring something, because though those eye hooks, like, it's a good first start in the idea. I think it would be better if maybe I were to drill into the sole of the shoe and then thread the the hook through it that way, so that it'd be more in line, and maybe that would create more of that turn that I was looking for. You give me 1 second, let me look at this, how that looked when I was walking there. It could just be a tension thing at this point, but it looks like I'm creating too much. It could be where I put the rod as well. Like, I might need to put the rod down in a different space. I could have just not had enough tension, or I could have had too much tension on the strings attached to the foot, and it was making it so that the foot was popping back too much. So it is adding a lot of tension, but I think we're getting close to where I want that leg to be moving. Yeah, with the other attachment point, I think it's just way too far down. Like, it puts me at a better angle, obviously. But I just feel with the way that the chin's attached to the puppet now is probably the best way. Because that just feels way, way too high off the puppet. It just creates way too much of a neck. Now, could I possibly do a situation where we make a smaller connecting point from the neck to the QD latch? Possibly. Like, it's crazy to think like that is too much. Like, it doesn't feel like too much, but it adds quite a bit of distance on the puppet already. And I even tried to fold up the fur to where I kind of thought I wanted it to be, right? It just seems like way too much. Like, even with the cowl on, I don't think there's going to be enough fall through for that to work. So it's probably just too much. Then I've become so accustomed with how it looks so far. Yeah, I'm gonna have to game this out a lot more for sure. There's a lot more that needs to be figured out before this actually is going to be in the place where I want to be, where I feel like when I move, the puppet moves, or less so, when I move, the puppet moves in the way that I want the puppet to move. And that literally could be just us doing the same thing that we did on our arm situation, but just on the bottom with the cuff situation, where we have a string tensioned on there that allows it so that, like, so we put our cuff like here, like maybe we'll have to game that a little bit more. It might be better just try to use the dowel than trying to use the curtain rod for that particular situation. This is going to take a second. There's no getting by that. I knew it was going to take a second. I'm happy that we figured out kind of how I want to at least move the arm and the elbow. Now the whole extra can of worms is how do we move the wrist, both like this and with rotation. That's a whole nother can of worms for sure. And that literally could just be more wires. That could just be more like different string tensions on our actual part right here. So we already have, well, so right now it's like super tensioned already. So we could have other wires right here that I use to control the wrist motion, where I can pull one wire and it pulls that way, we pull the other wire, we pull it that way. We have something that does that. I've thought about possibly adding some springs onto it. The only issue is now we're adding stuff on, and with everything that we add on, I then have to be able to take it off, and it has to be then spray painted black. And or it has to be able to be spray painted black, and then it has to be able to be taken off and then be spray painted green if we end up moving into a phase of the project where we are shooting it with a green screen. Not a green screen, a green suit. Because then everything would need to be color or chroma keyed correct. That's another thing. 37. Oh my gosh. Okay. The microphone was not reacting to anything. And for a second there, I thought I had been talking to nothing air for the damn near last 30 minutes. That would have been really, really disappointing. Really disappointing to say the least. Do I leave us here where we are right now? I think so. I can't see us getting farther in the next 20 odd minutes that I have here where I got to go do stuff. I wish I could have done more today. I started late again. That's my fault. Part of me is saying that I need to break myself away from these curtain rods that I bought, even though I like them as a concept. Like maybe they'll work for the arms, but maybe I need to go back into the dowels over there, the wooden dowels, because I can then drill into them where I need things to be drilled in. I can add inlets that will act as places for wires to slip into that can then act as kind of I wouldn't really call it a pulley, but a channel, if you will, for that wire or that string to kind of slide in and out. And you know, it's so funny, and I think I've mentioned it a few times. And obviously, like I've mentioned it, and it's got kind of lost with all the updates for the project that I put online. But again, this is a proof of concept for an idea that I have for a puppet that is much more complicated than this one. Which, you know, it definitely humbles one and makes one think, like, if I can barely figure this out right now, how would I ever be able to tell another individual about the more complicated string tension complex version of this idea? I try to settle that within myself by saying, again, I am only one dude. I'm a single cat in a shed that is doing this all on his own. And if I had a team of people around me, or if there was a team of people working to create something of a similar effect with I don't know, a person that maybe has more of a keener mind than I do, and they come up with a better version of this, it's just sometimes I get hard on myself because I'm not able to produce not only the ideal version of what I want, but I'm not also able to produce, well, at this point, even the conceptual proof of what I want. But then I have to tamp that down and I have to remind myself that, like, James, young Jamie, you've gotten this far, damn it. You got this far, you can't keep putting yourself even farther down. You got to keep continuing on in the way that you can, and with only that and that alone, you must strive forth, because that's that's all we got. We got to keep going forward. And I mentioned it in the beginning of the stream, and today reaffirmed that I need to put it out the mind. But again, so many more concepts that have been presented to me that I would love to do for this project, because Paxi is not just the approach to this BrainPoint form, it's the approach to, at one point, it was the approach to just another form of Chopper, and then it turned into, okay, well, now I have a concept for Walk Point, but I have a simple concept for Guard Point. And now my mind is like, well, shoot, I also have a concept that could work for Jump Point. And for the longest time, I was so I was so happy to just allow the idea of Heavy Point, Chopper's more kind of like large human Bigfoot form, to be played by another actor, not myself. But now I'm even thinking, now I've been presented with the concept, well, if for Jump Point you're already putting into the idea of creating larger arms and you're thinking about creating some stilts for something, then why not do the same thing for Heavy Point? And so what went from I have Brain Point and Walk Point as a concept, but I'm building Brain Point, now it's we are damn near like in spitting distance of a finish line for Brain Point. Again, this day has reaffirmed that we are not in spitting distance. Like, we might see flags in the far flung like view, but we're not even there yet. But I have Brain Point, I have Walk Point, I have Guard Point, I have Jump Point, I have Heavy Point. And if I have Heavy Point, why not have Arm Point? And I'm getting to the point where I'm starting to think. I already, well, in some ways know that I'm the cat to play this character. But it went from I'm the cat to play this character along with another dude playing one of the other parts, to I'm the cat that will be playing every part of this character, and it just depends on what suit you throw me in. And I am willing to say that if we ever use CGI for any part of the character, let it be Monster Point and only Monster Point. And there's still a part of me that thinks, well, you could do some pretty fun forced perspective with a doll and a green screen window. But again, this has resettled my mind that I'm only focused on Brain Point, and until we have 6 or 7 beautiful beautifully done scenes where the puppet is moving perfectly, I'm in like top tier character, we are telling story, we are showing development of both the product and the person, then we move on to the next points. But for now, day 21, practical approach to Tony Chopper. I don't know if it's in the books. I might come back later, but I might not. jumping back in again has revealed to me how much credit I give myself before starting again, and how much credit I should really, you know, not give myself sometimes. So that's that. I hope you have a good one, wherever it is, however it is. I hope you do enjoy it. Until next time, peace.